we will be submitting things before the committee very soon. That hasn't been submitted as of yet. But it's potentially a very serious situation. I think you're going to find some very interesting items coming to the forefront over the next 2 weeks.
So that is an answer to a question from Tucker Carlson about the wiretapping claims. This, as we learned, FBI Director James Comey will testify Monday in public before the House Intelligence Committee. So that starts next week. Today, though, Senator James Lankford out of Oklahoma from the Intelligence Homeland Security Committee is with me now. And Senator, welcome back here to America's Newsroom. Just a couple things, submitting things over the next 2 weeks, going to cover a lot of things. What do you think he's got?
You know what? I don't know yet. We want to be able to see it. Obviously, we have an ongoing investigation of what happens when Russia was trying to interfere in our elections. To be able to get all the details on that, it's very important. We'll loop that into part of our investigation, but be glad to be able to get that information from them.
Have you seen anything yet, Senator?
Not yet on that. And we're waiting to be able to see what they submit to us.
When the president describes covering a lot of different things as it pertains to wiretapping, how broad is that definition?
You know, we'll have to wait and see what that is. Clearly, he's not talking about the president, the previous president, physically going in and tapping a phone or trying to put a bug on it. This is a larger surveillance, as Sean Spicer has already come out to be able to say. We'll have to see exactly what that is. There's some theories that are out there that this is what's called incidental collection, where there's collection on a foreign individual who calls into the United States, and then they're happening to gather up some U.S. persons in that as well. But there are even some problems even in that theory, because if there's incidental collection, you have to minimize Americans that are in it to make sure that those U.S. persons are protected in their rights. So we want to be able to find out exactly what he means by this.
Just one more thing. He said, let's see whether or not I prove it. That sounds like a challenge. Is that the way you hear it?
It does, actually, and that's one of the key things we've got to be able to get. But this investigation is not about trying to investigate the president. This is a larger issue that the president's saying this was an issue during the campaign, then that's an issue, and this is a criminal offense.
David Nunes, your colleague on the Republican side, House side of Congress, said this yesterday, and as viewers listen to this, he dropped a few breadcrumbs, you could say, that are intriguing. Watch.
I don't think there was an actual tap of Trump Tower. However, as I expressed last week, and I remain even more concerned about this, which are twofold. One, the incidental collection of Americans that were possibly tied to the Trump campaign that could have been leaked, similar to General Flynn. And secondly, the unmasking of Americans' names, potentially for political purposes.
So there's two things in there that I'm trying to figure out. The incidental collection of Americans possibly tied to the Trump team and General Flynn. What's that about?
That is about what I was mentioning before. That is when a foreign government is being monitored, which I would tell you we do actively. We are trying to actively pursue terrorist threats, our enemies, to be able to find out what they're doing before they bring the battle to us, to be able to be aware of that. At times, some of those individuals will talk to an American citizen, but there are very strict rules about trying to minimize that information of a U.S. person and clearly not to ever get their name out there and to be able to be in public on that.
That would be against the law.
That is a criminal offense to be able to release out that name. That's correct.
The second thing he said, they're unmasking of American names potentially for political purposes. How does that fit into this debate now?
So it fits into the debate because that would be the previous administration getting foreign information, intelligence information that included a U.S. person and someone from the previous administration for political purposes releasing out the information on a U.S. person in any kind of phone call or information they had. That, again, is a criminal offense. That's a very critical part of this investigation as well.
Have you seen evidence that would back this up without specifically saying that publicly?
That is what we were asking the White House to be able to provide. They feel very strong that they have some of this information. Obviously, that's going to come from the FBI and from the CIA. We have a lot of relationships in those in the Intelligence Committee, as Devin Nunes does as well in the House Intelligence. But we've not seen those documents to date. But we are very eager to be able to get those as a part of our ongoing investigation of what happened.
Where's this all going, do you think?
This is the great unknown. I would tell you one of the things that we need to be very clear on is that when we're dealing with Russia, we're dealing with someone who's trying to destabilize the region. Russia tries to prove its significance by basically interfering in everyone else's election, and so you talk about them. They have this perception that they want to have a good persona. And some of the bad news that comes out about their drug doping during the Olympics and their Olympic team being banned, they will then do outreach and say, okay, we're going to interfere with your elections. We're going to try to find other ways to be able to retaliate because because you exposed us in this area. So Russia has this ongoing mode that they're always trying to destabilize everyone else to lift themselves up. We have to expose that, and we have to aggressively go after it. And where Russia comes after us, we have to get the truth and the facts out there. If there's some other aspects that are in this that are being accused, we want to get all facts.
It's going to take some time.
No question the Russians were interfering, though.
No question what? I'm sorry?
No question the Russians were interfering in our election, but there is great question whether the Trump campaign was ever involved in that. We're trying to get all facts out, so we'll settle that issue one way or the other.
Well, Nunez and his colleague, Adam Schiff, the Democrat, made it clear this is going to take some time. Sir, thank you for your time today. Senator Lankford from Oklahoma, appreciate you coming back. Thanks.
Thanks.
Shannon.
Well, President